Howdy Neighbors, and welcome back to our life. Last time we freaked out in a restaurant. And we have our shark friend resting in Cove right now because we freaked out at him. That was a relief. Another message followed shortly after. I'm here. What? You looked up from your phone and out the window. Nothing stood out as obviously Cove-shaped. But he wasn't easy to miss. You're ready to text him back when you saw a shock of green out of the corner of your eye. Cove stood up. He'd been sitting on the pavement, leaning against the car door. Straightened out and smiled carefully. He pointed toward the closest car door and raised his shoulders in a clear question. I wanted to know if it was okay for him to hop in. He nodded, not seeing the point of keeping him awkwardly outside. He walked to the other side of the door opposite of you. He put his hand on the door handle and pulled. Opened the door, and obviously wasn't expecting it to be locked. With the unlock button, he smiled after he heard the click. He sat down and quietly closed the door behind him. For a moment, he faced straight ahead. His hands flinched when he got halfway through putting on his seatbelt before he realized he wasn't actually going anywhere. He wrapped his arms in his seatbelt, slithered back up to the side of the car. Neither of you seemed to know what to say now. Eventually, Cove turned to face you. He seemed serious. Everyone cared when you left the restaurant. They all wanted to be here, but I promised that I'd look out for you. He gripped the side of his cushion and regarded his lap. Like Liz, you told me I better not be making things worse, or I'd never be considered a trusted adult for the rest of my life. Yeah, everyone's here for you, even if it's just me in the car. Cove stared deep into your eyes. You noticed he had some redness around his. You could do it. We could do it. Make a good life for ourselves. No matter how hard it seems, we could do it. He gripped your shoulders, and you knew that he was doing his best to project confidence. He wasn't sure about himself, but he was trying it for your sake. Thanks. He nodded and seemed almost larger than life. There's something about Cove. He could bring out the best parts of you. Cove then studied you from over his shoulder with a soft expression. He twisted his body to the side and held up his open arms. You raised your eyebrows. One in. You pulled yourself toward the middle seat so that you could reach him properly. You had to climb over one of his legs that had been resting across the seats. He turned so that he was completely sideways in the seat, back pressed up against the car door, made space in front of him for you. You settled down against him and leaned against the top of his shoulders. You wiggled in to fit comfortably. He had both of his arms around you and rested one of his cheeks on top of your head. It was very snug. He kissed your forehead gently and you relaxed into him. You breathed him in. The scent was uniquely Cove, oceany and citrusy. He made you feel secure and precious. Despite the cramped backseat of the car, Cove was very comfortable, and his reassurance was nice. He was right here, and he cared. So to dwell on future troubles when he was doing his best to comfort you. Hey. His voice was calming, and his eyes were full of fondness for you. His mouth quirked into a crooked smile. I have a great plan. I hate that. But you just stopped thinking about the future and all of that. You had no idea what he meant. He didn't acknowledge your confusion and continued. I'll still get that little apartment, and you can move in too. I'll stay as close to here as possible, and I'll get a new job on the shopping street. I'll sell pretzels. The fuck? He lightly stroked your head as he spoke. From the word pretzel, he traced a loop-de-loop shape that you had suspected was supposed to be a pretzel. You can probably find a job too. You can also sell pretzels, and we'd be business partners. And then we'll do that forever. We never have to worry about what to do or where to go or letting our lives change ever again. So? What do you think? Laughed. That was proof that Cove was utterly hilarious. Pretzels. That would certainly be one way to steer your future. Perfect, you're a genius. Cove chuckled, appearing entirely too innocent. Please do agree. I can't wait. Pretzels and you. Better research the apartment we get. Well. You want to be stuck in a sad place to live forever. True. We'll find the ideal place before committing. So the main question is going to be the rest of the interior decorating. Concept pretzel furniture! We can find a way. It was fun to not be so serious for a bit. Though soon Cove's tone changed. Viola started to speak but drifted off. All the sound of the world outside were muffled and distant. In that space, in that moment, it felt as though there was no one except you and Cove. He softly ran his hand up and down your arm. It felt reassuring. Finally, he was able to continue his thought. No matter what, you can count on me whenever you need something. Or even if you just want it. We're becoming more independent. But you're never actually alone in this world. I love you so much. Thanks. He considered the thought of living with Cove in his tiny apartment and the pretzel plan, or just in general. I'd be fine living with you, if that could ever work out.
Really?
Really? I like that too. Cove beamed. Felt much better than you did 5 minutes ago. It was your ray of sunshine. Cove turned red but met your eyes. He was happy, and his blush took over his face. I guess we should be able to head back without carrying the weight of all this. It's important after all. He paused with a smirk, anticipated a joke or at least attempt at one. Our hands will finally be free for other things, like eating our meal. That'll be nice. Fucking idiot. You fucking idiot. Thanks. I appreciated him for being there. It meant a lot that he cared enough to go after you. He smiled, pleased at how everything turned out. With that, you happily stepped into the world again. You made sure to grab your phone and key on the way out. Your stomach rumbled after you locked Mom's car back up. It's like we're heading back just in time. Yeah. It was a short walk back to the restaurant. It felt like you blinked and then suddenly you're taking your place at the table. You felt nervous. You didn't want to explain what happened. Liz took in your appearance with a grateful expression. To your surprise, she seemed alright in letting you disappearing at go. Thank goodness you're back. You have to back me up here. A hair elastic is called a hair elastic. It's a hair tie. Even just coming into the argument, you could tell they were just joking around. Neither Liz nor Lee was taking this semantic discussion seriously. Isn't it a rubber band? Traitor! Your mom's laughed and you felt your discomfort subside a bit. Mom caught your eye. You alright? You nodded. Throughout the next few minutes, you found yourself drawn into different conversations, each one where everyone checked on you in their own way. Or that everyone's love comforted you. You decided to tuck this treasured feeling close to your heart. You want to remember it for a long, long time. A night fell after everyone had finished their meals, and before you knew it, you were sitting in the parking lot, saying your goodbyes and packing up the cars to go home. After the last of the chores was done, your family spent more time together. The rest of the night felt like it was going by in the blink of an eye. Somehow, by the time you come, you retired to your room to sleep. You pulled your covers under your chin and settled down for the night, getting warm and cozy. When your head sank into your pillow and you closed your eyes, your mind drifted back to everything that had happened that day. You could see it all behind your eyelids, and though you were experiencing it all over again. And then the image of Cove popped into your head and you smiled softly to yourself. You wanted to sneak out to his room. If Cove could do it, then you didn't see why you shouldn't be allowed to. You made up your mind. As quickly as you managed to put on your shoes and slip out of your room, from the door behind you softly. Head downstairs, you took care to make the floor creak, especially the boards right by the restroom. They definitely squeaked. The stillness of the night made even the slightest sound seem so much louder in your ears, and you were really aware of your mom sleeping nearby. Upon reaching the bottom, you tiptoed toward the front door. Sitting under the crisp night air, you shut the door and took a relieving breath. Sun rising, you dashed across the street toward Cove's house. The road too was surreal at this hour, familiar yet strange. It might have been eerie at another time. How eager you hardly cared. You attempted to find your way from a normal footpath to the side of the condo. The limited light made it difficult. You knew for sure which window was Cove's, and luckily for you, it was on the first floor. Unlike Cove, you wouldn't have to do any building scaling. All you needed to do now was make it safely over the fence, past the bushes without getting caught or injured. Staying closer, you glanced over the hedges toward Cove's bedroom window, finding it cracked open. Perfect. You wouldn't have to knock and worry about him not answering. Picking yourself up with ease, you cleared the fence and avoided the shrubs, and darted over to the window. Buzzed with nervous excitement as you approached the dark, having successfully made it all the way here unseen. Lifting the window up so it was fully open, yourself halfway through, your legs dangling into the underbrush below. A little awkward, as a small shelf was right in the way. You had to take care not to knock over a couple of plants, but you made it through with minimal noise. Once safely inside, you dusted yourself off and turned to close the window gently, with the soft glow of moonlight and Cove's fish tank there to see the way. You gave a small wave to the special fish you named Sunbeam. Straining your eyes in the dark, you crept toward Cove's bed, barely making out a sleeping figure beneath the covers. By the sound of soft breathing, you can tell that he hadn't heard you come in. A small smile tugged at your lips. Nudged him. A couple of nudges, he sleepily blinked his eyes and mumbled something incoherent beneath his breath. Cove, I want to come over, is that alright? Let out a yawn and rolled toward you. Being up just enough to understand the question, but not the full context. A faint smile appeared on his face. Oh yeah, I want you here. God, I fucking hate his pajamas. He reached for you, his arms wrapping around your neck as he pulled you toward him. Before his touch, he gave a satisfied sigh. And then, as if totally unaware of what he had done, he started dozing off again. You seconded quietly to yourself as you sat there. He could figure it out on his own. And after a few more seconds, he did. Wait! Yeah? He shuffled under the covers and sat up to stare at you in alarm.
What?
Why are you in my room? What happened? A smile slipped from your face as he finally registered your presence for real. I was bored. He gave you a crooked smile. Say, really? I should have known you'd do this one of these days. It's only fair. He let out a breath, feeling relieved that he didn't seem bothered by it. And in fact, it felt really good. Though maybe this enthusiasm was why Cove did it so often. He pushed himself up fully, swinging his legs over the side of the bed and leaving a spot for you to sit beside him. His hands shook as he held them in his lap. He was nervous. You gently took a seat, trying not to disturb his thoughts. You say as long as you want. Really? Well then, I guess we're roommates, baby. Imagine that's one of the options. Yeah, really. How long do you want me to stay? Well, I'll be honest, there aren't a lot of situations where leaving you is ever what I want. I guess only when I annoy you and you need space. She chuckled softly, doubting that would happen anytime soon. Alright, I won't go anywhere. His face lit up as he settled in even more. I've secretly slept over in your room before. It's only fair that you did too. You snickered, feeling pleased with your decision to do this. There's no way I'm letting you take the floor this time. Here we go again. You rolled your eyes and let out a soft laugh, which Cove returned as he rubbed the back of his neck. I'll take the floor, I insist. His eyes narrowed into slits of aquamarine. He didn't want to argue about it, but didn't want to accept your offer. But you were firm about your decision. Their gazes stayed locked on each other, until you had silently entered into some sort of staring competition, neither of you willing to budge. As the mini-battle of wills continued, you drifted closer, until you could almost count every single one of his individual eyelashes. You stared each other down. The two of you locked eye to eye. One of you would have to be the first to crack. You know I'd be more comfortable on the floor than the bed. Well, so would I. It's your house, so I'm not taking your bed. He pouted and pulled the hem of his shirt unhappily. Viola. I just can't be sleeping in bed if you're not too. So that's it. I'm not gonna be the only one in the bed tonight. You raised an eyebrow and folded your arms over your chest, giving him a questioning look. Does that mean you share with me? Yeah, this time we can share. Really? You would actually stay and not leave to be on the floor. He nodded, holding back your delight. You tried not to grin at his sudden boldness. Eventually a smile broke through, though Cove stayed completely serious, his face set like stone. There, I made a compromise. If you won't take it, then you'll just have to accept me sleeping on the floor. We'll put on the floor! Bam, baby! That's my compromise. You broke into laughter, all tension gone. Deal. Cove rubbed his eyes and sat with a yawn, stretching his arms above his head. This is kind of dumb, but we're doing it, so we should put stuff down to sleep on. Alright, I'll help. He gave you a grateful smile. Both of you took pieces of the not being used bed and gathered up a few spare blankets and pillows, then set them up on the floor. When you had arranged them enough to be comfortable to sleep on, Cove hummed happily. The two of you got under your own covers, laughing and joking around, before remembering you should be keeping the noise down. Resting on your side, you ruffled up your pillow and faced Cove, who did the same. He sighed amusingly as he settled in on the floor. Be sure you don't get too close to me, otherwise it'll basically be like we're sharing the same sleeping spot anyway. And then all the sacrifices we're making will be for nothing. He scoffed quietly, hardly believing how ridiculous he was when it came to this. This is Cove Holden for you. No, so playfully. Pulled a funny face at you in return, which had you laughing all over again. Neighbor looked over at you happily. He was honestly content. Love you. Love you. The night stretched on and you continued giggling and chatting, hearing out absolutely everything except this room and each other. You felt so light again, like you were 8 instead of 18. And the only big decisions you had to make were what you were going to have for breakfast in the morning. Soon enough, your eyes began to grow heavy, and the conversation slowly came to an end as you both fell into a restful sleep side by side. Next morning, you were lost in a comfortable dream. The loud sound startled you, awake and your eyes flew open, widely searching for the source of the sound. Oh! No! No! It was the door opening abruptly, and the three of stood Mr. Holden smiling brightly. Didn't seem to notice you straight away. You're put out of bed, sport. Mom's here. All of a sudden, the two of you made eye contact, and you froze where he stood, slough slowly slipping from his face. Oh well, that's not what I usually walk into. I shouldn't knock this morning. Oh my god! Of course Cove can do it, but I'm the one who gets caught. What the fuck do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Morning. Good morning. Cove blinked, his eyes tiredly and mumbled something incoherent before turning toward the door. With you and Mr. Holtus stared at him for a few moments, neither of you knowing what to say or do. Cove continued to look at his dad dozily, was obviously having a hard time processing the situation. And his eyes widened. Dad! He scrambled to his feet, tossing his covers aside as he pushed himself up. Fortunately, in all his attempts, his blanket slipped on the hardwood floor and he went falling backward. Except he hit his head on the floor. Oh! Popped back down on his pillow, pressing a hand to his head and groaning loudly. Cove. You reached out toward him instinctively. Oh, buddy, you're right there. Stephen stepped further into the room, his eyebrows furrowed with concern. He bent down toward his son. Yes, please just go. Okay, I'll leave. Cove held up his hand in front of him in a calming gesture. No, Cove couldn't see it. He turned to make his exit before stopped abruptly in the doorway, obviously deciding he had more to say. I know we've talked about this before, but I feel like now is one of those times to mention I was barely older than you when I found out I was gonna be a daddy, so... If there's anything you need to say or ask about, we are not having kids! I know! I was only saying, at that age things can move fast, and... He let out a heavy sigh, laying a hand over his face before stopping himself and saying calmly, "You know what? It's fine. We'll chat about this later. Kara's awaiting." With that, he stepped back out of the room, giving the two of you one last look before pulling the door shut behind him. He rubbed his face before dropping his head into his hands and mumbling between his fingers.
Oh my god.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Covered your face with the sand. It was immensely embarrassing. At the heavy sigh, Cove forced himself to sit up. He found hard staring over at the closed door. Sorry. I guess we can't just hide in here now. He gave you a sidelong glance, and despite his displeasure with the situation, a slow smile quirked on his lips. It's too bad. It was really nice. It was nice. Found yourself smiling along with him. Though when you thought about having to go out there and face both Cove's mom and dad, you weren't thrilled. The two of you took a few moments to get up properly and get yourself as ready as possible before heading out to see Kara. Kara was waiting patiently in the living room. She was in high spirits, with her eyes on the hallway. Her amused smile only widened when you and Cove froze. It didn't take long for the realization to sink that the scene must have been loud enough for her to hear, even from there. Cove tried to look unimpressed, eyes narrowing over Kara's smug delight. Though his face was already turning red and his mom didn't even say anything yet. He squared his shoulders, lifted his head, and strode forward.
Hey.
Hi, Mom. Hi, baby. And hello to you too, Viola. Her tone cracked in her greeting. And then she just gave in and laughed, unable to keep any of it in. Cove frowned at that and his eyebrows furrowed. Sorry for the interruption. I didn't know you already had guests. His frown wobbled as he became even more embarrassed by this moment. He couldn't muster up any words to defend himself. Sorry. Which left your lips quietly. You were upset and embarrassed by this whole situation. Oh no, don't be. He was still unable to say anything. Other than his teeth biting the inside of his cheek, he stood there frozen. Harris studied both of you for a moment. It's okay. My not-so-little mister is spreading his wings. I can't complain about that. Charlie tapped the tip of his nose. that got a tiny smile out of Cove. Despite being much taller than Kara at this point, he still seemed like a little kid in front of her. You released the other you're holding new lungs, and then Kara's gaze locked onto you. You know, we were just going over to see Pam and Noelle. Are you two coming? Smiling softly, you nod in agreement. Cove and Kara both chuckled at your delicate response. He stretched his arms for a moment and yawned, trying to physically shake off what happened.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Great.
Great, let's get going. It was then that you noticed Mr. Holt is standing on the other side of the room. You figured he must have been trying to create some space for everyone during the last conversation. You totally felt a bit awkward, but he tried smiling reassuringly as he stretched the back of his neck. His attention went to Cove. Oh, sorry. Bud, do you want to get changed first? Looked down at his pajamas for a moment. He shook his head. No, we don't have to wait for that. Are you sure it's really a trip across the street?
Don't worry about it.
It's alright. Besides, Viola's going in pajamas too. Fair point. Cove then leaned closer to you. He grumbled quietly. Your moms are gonna figure out what happened anyway, so... yeah. Away we go! With that decided, the four of you headed across the street to your house. It felt strange waiting there while Mr. Holden knocked on the door.
Hello.
Hi there. Mom answered the door, her expression brightened, even more seeing Kara there. She wanted to pull Kara into a hug, when her gaze fell on you. Viola? Hi, Mom. When did you get out there? Why are you still in your pajamas? Mom's eyebrows raised as she gave a deep examining stare. Meanwhile, you and Cove shared a slow side glance at each other. Before you could answer, more heads popped into view at the doorway. Ma, Liz, and Lee were all chuckling. I'll be honest, I'd always assumed Cove had been the one sneaking around. What? Her eyes sparkled with amusement, and you had to look away. You noticed Cove's face burning red again. It was a solid theory, Lonnie. Most likely, they've both been breaking and entering. I wouldn't put it past my baby. He takes after his parents. You're right. I can't believe my Viola was getting up in all that mischief, too. Mortified. Cove looked like he wanted to disappear. But the adults chuckled and discussed what you and him may or may not have done. Fortunately, they left the conversation there. I'm sitting around here. Come on in. Mom moved aside to usher the group in and guided them to the living room. Before anyone could get settled in, Mom spoke up. You're all welcome to stay for breakfast. We still have some great spices stuff from the farmer's market.
Of course.
Yes, we'd be thrilled to host you. There were eager nods from Mr. Holden and Kara, but Cove looked around the room filled with familiar faces before speaking up. Maybe instead of staying here, why don't we go to the beach? A scenic picnic, huh? Mr. Holden crossed his arms and contemplated the idea happily. Excited, Kara clapped her hands together. Ooh, we could really make a day of it. Might as well enjoy the ocean while we can. So lovely, Cove. Everyone else put in their agreement at Cove's suggestion. For long, both families dispersed, getting everything ready. Sandwiches had to be made, water, sunscreen, towels, and even more had to be gathered and packed. Plus, you and Cove both took some time to get dressed for the day. An hour later, both your family and Cove's were walking down the old path to the beach. The morning has already turned into a bright and beautiful day. You honestly couldn't ask for better weather for a beach trip. The moment you laid your eyes on the full view of the ocean, you stopped and stood there mesmerized. It didn't matter that you grew up there. The sight always filled you with wonder. Hey, Viola.
So?
I was thinking about calling Terry and Miranda. See if they want to come too. Everyone else is pretty much already here, so would your family mind? I can ask them. Already, you couldn't imagine any problems with your moms could have with the idea. Go fetch your grin growing on your face. You were eager to see your friends join the fun today and made your way over to your mom's. I have a question. Would it be alright if Terry and Miranda came by? I don't see why not. Mom looked at Mom to see what she thought, and she nodded in agreement. Mom then shot a glance over at Mr. Holden and Kara, knowing that they had likely heard everything.
You all right with that?
Cliff, Kara, what do you two think? The more the merrier.
Okay.
Of course. You're welcome with me. Thanks. Delighted, you nodded and turned on your heels. You were still several feet away talking to Lee and Liz, likely about the same topic. With a beaming smile, you gave him a thumbs up, and the two of them must have also approved, as Cove quickly took out his phone and started making calls. At that, you turned your attention to helping with the picnic setup. You hurried over to your mom's and helped put the rest of the food out. In moments, you noticed Cove at your side. Turning to face him, your mouth pulled to a hopeful smile. You waited expectantly for what he was going to say about the girls. They're gonna come! Really? Wilhelmina brightened, and your smile beamed. Well, meet us here later today. Shouldn't be too long. I can't wait. When the setup was done, everyone got comfortable and dug into the food. I don't remember the last time breakfast tasted this good. But you attributed it to the gorgeous ocean view and the soothing sea breeze. Conversation shifted to what you all would do next.
In that case,
We do a few rounds of volleyball. There's plenty of us now.
is that all right?
Can I play? Of course. Miranda brightened, delighted by this plan. Mom looked around to see if there were any other takers. I don't feel like playing. I have to change, but it'd be fun to watch. I could be the ref. My eyes won't miss a thing. I'm in. Excellent. Must have enough for 2 teams. Volleyball's a good idea, but there should probably be something happening for those that aren't a fan. Ooh, I have some crafting supplies that we can make jewelry. We could use stuff that we find at the beach to accentuate them.
Really?
Ooh, really? I want to make a necklace.
Oh, great.
I'd be more interested in trying my hand at that too. I guess I'll do volleyball. You looked at Ma, ready to jump into a competitive mode. She looked thrilled to have you on board. After the flights were settled, the groups temporarily split into 2.
Anyway.
Alright, sports stars. You're gonna have to pick partners and then the game is on. Sheldon left the rest of you to deliberate and turned his attention to drawing a makeshift cord in the sand. Well? She walked over to you and hooked her arm around yours. You laughed. I want to be on Viola's team. Right up with Ma. Alright, it's Ma and me. You wanted to have fun with your Ma. Cove put up his game face, intending to go easy on you now that you were on opposite sides. Cove then turned to Miranda. He looked determined. Ready to win?
Yeah.
Yes. When Mr. Holden finished drawing the court, he went and fetched the volleyball from the various other supplies you all brought. Sounds like we had the teams all set up, right?
Yes.
Yes. Good. Now get to your sides. Before you situate yourself on one side or another on the court with your partner, Sheldon tossed the ball to Ma.
Do you mind?
Since it was Noelani's idea, it's only fair that she gets to serve first. Thank you, Cliff.
Yeah.
Ooh, Mom, show me who's boss. Go viral and make him eat sand. You take a small heap of sand out of your way on the simple court, making her laugh. You turned your back toward Ma. Good luck. Luck to you too. I don't think we're gonna need it. Ma flashed you a playful grin and punched a fist into the palm of her other hand, very amused at her show of confidence. With that, Ma got into position and delivered a practice first serve. The game began. And the battle over the volleyball, both teams scored points. It wasn't a set amount to reach the end of things. It went back and forth for as long as everyone wanted to play. And the game went for quite a while as everyone got into it, especially the cheers and added commentary. Those of Mr. Holden made the whole game better with their humor and wit. From a distance, the jewelry-making group would also cheer when they heard shots coming out of the court. On top of that, they would hold up each newly made piece in the air, and the players would take a breather to applaud the creation. It wasn't until you all were exhausted from running, biking, and driving that a truce was called. You enjoyed every moment of it. Afternoon continued to drift by, but the fun was still going strong. Occasionally, someone would head back to the houses to use the restroom, rest away from the sun for a while, or retrieve something that they needed, but they always came back. The beach was never empty, and there was always a new conversation to take part of or another game to join. At one point, Mr. Holden even broke out his pack of cards. Oh fuck. He drove the whole group into a few rounds of good old Go Fish. There was only one thing that could bring this beach day to an end, and that was the day itself to end. For when one realized it, the sun began to set over the sea. As that happened, you were taking a break, sitting on a towel with your legs stretched out past it and your feet buried in the warm sand. Shortly, you looked up to see your moms approaching. They stopped in front of you and smiled. Hey there.
How are you?
How you doing? Good. They both sat down, squishing you between them. Ma leaned her head against yours, and Mom started rubbing your back soothingly. Nothing more was said at first, but Ma sighed contently. One looked at you wistfully. Both really proud of you.
True.
You grew up to be more than we could ever have hoped. Sure, I deserve any of that glowing praise. We were touched that they felt that way, but you felt it was too much of a compliment out of nowhere. Of course you do. Try searching your mind for the right words to explain the strange feeling twisting in your chest. Your mom lightly brushed some of your hair. Turning your head, you looked from Mom to Ma. They both smiled encouragingly at you. You did the hard work greater than me. Mom chuckled. Ma wrapped an arm around your middle and squeezed you tightly in a side hug. That's the thing. It was never hard work. I loved every minute of it. And I don't think we'll ever stop.
Yes.
Oh well, you're going to have to accept how fantastic you are, whether you want it or not. Thanks. You stayed there quietly and contently, watching the sun set with your parents for a while. Mr. Holden called out to you. He was still walking in your direction. We were talking and think we're gonna take a walk down by the shore. And if you want to come? Automatically you looked at your moms for what they were thinking. More or less over at Ma. Ma glanced from you to Ma and smiled. Sounds good to me.
That's fantastic.
Must be very nice. I'd like these and stretching. Grinning, you looked back at Mr. Holden. You gave him a nod. Thrilled, Mr. Holden blew a thumbs up and began heading back the way he came in a light jog. Hey, don't leave us in the dust. Cliff kept going forward, but flipped around, walking backward across the sand so he could face you all again.
No worries.
Don't worry, we won't leave without you. Alright, we'll catch up. Ready to go? Yeah. Both your moms held out a hand for you. Chuckling, you gave them each one as you strode back to the rest of the group. When Liz was in reach, Ma used her free hand to pull her into it too. She shook her head with her mouth quick to a smile that she didn't resist. As a family, you followed behind the others hand in hand. Your feet squished in the wet sand as the waves rolled over them. And you didn't have a single care in the world as more and more stars began to dot the sky. As the sun had long been out of sight, it was finally time to pack up. The closing of the day and that ever-approaching end of summer seemed to intertwine. It caused a quiet, reflective mood over the blanket over the group. On the beach, Terry and Miranda took turns compressing Cove into a hug before moving on to do the same to you. You chuckled, still overjoyed that you got to see him today. Sorry we have to go already. My parents are here. That's okay. Still, I wish we could help clear all this up. Don't worry about it, just thanks for coming today. It's cool having everyone here.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm super glad we came. Hopefully we do this again sometime. Nodding, you turned your attention to Terry. She wore a large grin on her face and held out a hand for a low five. You obliged. Take care of yourselves, buddies. With that, they walked away, waving to you and Cove as they went down the shore. Cove waved quietly back with a small smile on his face. You waved too. It was a big wave. You hoped Miranda was right, and there would be another day like this soon. You, by surprise, Terry jumped and twisted around. She kept with Miranda by walking backward. She kept the mood of your farewell light by shooting finger guns at you and Cove. Miranda bumped her with her hip, left everyone with a laugh just as they disappeared down the bend. Viola?
Come on.
Hey Cove, could you come here? Both your parents were motioning to you. The two of you went to them. Most of things ended up at the beach over the course of the day. There was still so much to pack that your parents needed help. With a nod, you got to it, stuffing various things into bags and bundling them up in towels. When things were ready to go, everyone filled their arms with as much as they could carry. Absolutely no one wanted this to be a back and forth kind of task. The walk home ended up being mostly quiet. Each person seemed to be feeling the effects of the day. A cool breeze carried you across the sand and onto the road. There was a sigh of relief from what felt like the group as the whole team had arrived back at the neighborhood. Well, hello everyone, fucking Baxter! You glanced to the side and spotted a very recognizable face walking down the road. Oh, hi Baxter.
How are you?
Need help with that? You shook your head nervously while trying not to drop anything.
Well,
If you're sure. We'll simply head home after getting some fresh air. This is almost over after all. Yeah. Baxter was only a tourist. He wouldn't be in town much longer. This might even be the last time you happened to cross paths with him. You knew that, and so did he. If you have a minute, I would like to say it was a pleasure getting to know you both this summer. As I tilted toward you and he smiled warmly, Baxter offered you his hand. Here's your free hand to shake his. It was tough with what you were carrying, but you were able to extend one of your hands a bit. Baxter chuckled and shook it. Good luck in your next semester at school. Why, thank you. And good luck with your plans this fall. Thanks. Baxter turned to shake Cove's hand this time. He was a little incredulous for a moment, but then Cove eventually shifted stuff he was carrying and took Baxter's hand. It wasn't long, but it was a solid handshake. Baxter was clearly pleased. I wish we had more time together, but it was a nice ride while it lasted. Would happily do it all over again. Bye, Baxter. Yeah, bye. Baxter nodded and walked a few steps toward his condo, and then stopped and waved.
goodbye.
Goodbye. Baxter sauntered away completely and disappeared inside the condo to return to his own things. His time with you and your family and friends ended. Just for a moment, seeing where he went. But afterward, you looked back at the rest of the group. Leigh and Liz were just going inside your house. You couldn't spot Kyra or Mr. Holden anywhere, but the door to their house was wide open. Mom approached you with an amused look on your face. It seems like you're holding up some Holden things. Surprised, you glanced down with a quick inventory on what you were holding. Mom was right, some of it belonged to the neighbors. Would you mind dropping it off now? Fatigue was starting to sink in. You looked again at everything you were carrying, but you nodded. You do it. Thank you. Cove took a few steps toward his house and stopped, waiting for you. Good night, Cove. I'll see you inside, Viola. Night. You caught up to Cove, and together you went inside the house. Walking the front door, you saw Kyra and Mr. Holden busily unpacking already. Things were scattered on counters, and they were moved around each other, putting items away. They both lifted their heads when Cove closed the front door. Hey. Nice seeing you again already, Viola. Her teasing tone brought a light smile to your face. You hefted the stuff from your arms a little closer. I ended up with things that were yours from the beach. Well, thanks for getting it to us. You can put it here on the coffee table. Nolan pointed at the surface he was referring to, and you immediately left what didn't belong to your family there. He put his own things down on the floor, just at his feet, wading through everything strewn, about to reach his parents. Putting your family's stuff on the ground for a moment, you dusted your hands off and straightened up. You said second to rest, and a minute to restitute it all. You went over to where the others were too. Kara opened her arms wide, wanting to hug you. I'll accept. You shyly averted your eyes for a moment. Kara smiled understandingly. Then you stepped forward and let her pull you into a hug. She hugged you tightly so you could feel every bit of how much she was happy to know you. Felt cared about. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was a blast. I thought so too. Her eventually released you, but patted the tops of your shoulders as a final gesture.
Thank you.
Every time Gaunt come by was an absolute joy. Things really couldn't have worked out better. Mr. Holden took a step closer to you. Kara moved aside to let him say goodbye to you. He grinned. Thanks for always being such a friendly neighbor. And not just right now, but for as long as I've known you. I don't always make it easy, but you and your family are good people. I really truly appreciate
Thanks
it.
very much.
Thanks again, Viola, so much. At that, Mr. Holden reached over and gave you a soft pat on the top of your head. You're good people too. He smiled softly. Mr. Holden looked away for a moment and sniffed. When he met your gaze once more, his mouth pulled into a wide, happy grin. It was a lot to me. Mr. Holden was staring at you, but his gaze seemed far away. Maybe he was looking back at who he used to be. The 8-year-old he asked to be his son's new friend.
See you.
Bye. He smiled softly. And Cove took a step forward, just to the pile of things he had carried into the house. Don't worry about all that. I'll put stuff away in a few minutes. Right, I need to go to the same with my family. Figured. Cove walked you to the door and held it open. Taking one last check around to make sure you had all your things to bring home, you went into the road. He leaned his body against the doorframe, not following you out. So this is it, huh? Actually, that's not what I mean! His expression twisted and he shook his head a bit. He was trying to banish the pensive thoughts. I'll just say bye. Bye. It came out in a whisper and your lips pulled to a bittersweet smile. Everything felt too final for your liking. Cove reached forward and gently cupped your face with one hand. His thumb trailing against your cheek for several heartbeats. Mesmerized by his blue eyes, you stepped forward, delighted to oblige the request he was suddenly asking. Ew, no! His hands gripped the door handle and firmly held it, stopping himself from coming along with you. As you walked over to your own front door, you stopped. When you around, you spotted Cove right where you left him. You laughed quietly to yourself. Small pause, you both stared at each other from across the street. Night. Night. He shouted across the way to one another. Put one of his arms in a big wave so you couldn't miss it. These couldn't have dragged out any longer. After one more shared smile, you opened the door and went inside, shutting it behind you. A few steps in, you saw your family gathered in the living room. They were still busy unpacking and cleaning. You added the things you brought to the pile on the kitchen counter. Mom stood up, rubbing her eyes a bit. She yawned loudly. You bushed. We finish the rest of the chores tomorrow. Yes, honestly, it's too late for this. Please and thank you. Mom put her hands on her hips and turned to assess the room. Mom was not one who liked to leave a mess about, but she sighed. I suppose we can make an exception to the usual rule. It has been a really long day. Ooh, I like her outfit. The fuck? She cute! Liz grinned contentedly. Excuse me. They wasted no time skipping over to you and hooked you into a side hug. Good night. Hope you have the loveliest dreams. Of you know who. Fucking dick. Leah ended the sentence with a wink and a hearty laugh. She let you go. You have good dreams too. Leah's smile widened until it went from ear to ear. A fantastic way to cap off today and start tomorrow. Yes, that was Viola. Tonight, tomorrow, and forever. Now quietly. He smiled softly, pulled you into another side hug. This is your arms high above her head. She yawned loudly and looked at you with tired eyes. So cute, head bed. Bye. I think so too. Have fun sharing the room with Liz. She laughed at that, and Lee shuffled off toward the guest bedroom. Before you had a chance to do anything else, you could feel the top of your head being tapped. She spun around to see Liz smirking. Night, I'm heading to bed too. It's been a long day, and I have a lot to prepare for tomorrow. Sailing, you automatically started fixing the back of your hair. While Liz didn't immediately walk away, he smiled softly at her. Everything okay? Her gaze moved away. She knew she had more to say. He waited patiently for Liz to compose her thoughts. It's been a good summer. It was nice to be back home. You nodded and Liz gave you a teasing nudge as she went by. Amused, you turned and watched her go. Love you, baby sister. My older sister. Liz turned back to smirk at you. Chuckling, and you gave her a small wave. She said, well, you too. Liz was out of sight. Mom started up the next conversation over her shoulder. You head to bed too? What if you're getting everything cleaned up? Are you sure it can wait? Glancing around the room for a minute, the disarray made you feel a bit twitchy. You had a feeling that you'd sleep sounder if you took your time cleaning before bed. Yeah. Ma came over too, smiling understandably. She pulled you into a big hug. Right, you do what you need to. Love you. When you were done hugging Mom pulled you into another hug. Their actions, basically handing you off to another, made you laugh jovially. Love you so much. Love you too. Aww. Yes. They both couldn't resist taking turns hugging you again. Smile widened. It felt good to be so loved. Good night, kiddo. Sleep tight. Good night, sweetie. Good night. Good night. Your mom headed off toward the bedroom down the hall. You were about to turn the other direction when you heard Mom's voice. Don't let the bed bugs bite. You heard Ma chuckling as you watched them go with a smile. It was a while later when you finished putting everything away. You didn't rush the process at all. Your sleeping hours may have been cut into, but you felt so much better getting it done. You sighed contently, gazing at the organized living room and kitchen. Before you could take this well-earned break on the couch, something out the window caught your eye. Your feet brought you right in front of the large window spanning the length of the back wall. You stared at the hills behind your house. As if on cue, your phone came on, alerting you of a new notification. It was Cove. Want to hang out on the hill tonight? Something inside told you that it was the right kind of night to take a trip out there. You sent him back a very quick message. Yeah. Yay! Less than 3. Less than 3. You went over to the front door and, stepping over the threshold, in the living room, one last glance over your shoulder. You shut the door behind you. Silently, you made your way to the poppy hill. The light steps in the dark, you walked across the hills behind your house. Up ahead at the very top, silhouetted beneath the night sky, was a familiar figure already waiting there. Smiling, you wondered just how he always got there first. He even had advantage of living closer. Then again, and maybe it was only in your mind, but somehow Cove was intrinsically? What the fuck is that word? Intrinsically linked with this place. For all these years, it would be weird to scan the horizon and not find him there, as surreal as the shore of the sea. The distance between you grew shorter by the second. Hearing the grass and earth crunch beneath your feet, Cove turned. The grin spread on his face when he saw you. You took your place standing behind him on the crest of the poppy hill, looking over the ocean. Same as you had done countless times when he'd first arrived, when you had found him in the very same spot. Viola. He had officially broken the silence, and the spell that had you both in place. You looked at him expectantly. Something I've always kind of wondered about. He cocked his head, giving you a sidelong glance. What do you think about when we met? I was just a kid you'd never seen before, bawling his eyes out on the hill next to your house. He chuckled, his eyes drifting toward the sea beyond, before flicking back to you. The way his gaze pulled back made it clear that he was genuinely invested in the topic. Luckily for him, you remembered what initially stuck out to you in the moment. It was as if it had only happened yesterday. Well, I remember noticing those wavy eyebrows of yours. He shook his head, smiling wryly. Seriously? And I don't notice that noticeable you honed in on them as soon as you saw me? Unbelievable. You nodded, grinning shyly. Sorry. Sighing a bit, you continued to reminisce over the first meeting. I also remember feeling bad about what was happening. That too. He ran a hand through his hair, and you knew his line of questioning wasn't at an end, even before he spoke again. Do you remember what you thought about me? You know, as a person? Was I annoying or mean, or... I wanted to get to know you. His eyes widened, openly amazed by your response.
Really?
Really? I don't know why I deserve that. It's nice of you. His hand drifted to the scar on his arm, his fingers unconsciously gliding over the mark. It was much less noticeable than it ever had been when the neon pink cast had first come off, showing gradually over the years as the body healed. Then it dwarfed in comparison to his growing body. Those fingers came back to it without thinking. He gave a half smile, not meeting your eyes. I feel bad now. The thoughts I had were, well, considering what you were thinking, I came across a lot worse of a kid. You didn't like me?
No.
No, it definitely wasn't that. Cove lifted his head up, finally committing to meeting your eyes fully once more. I remember you that day. I remember it really well. I don't think I'd ever be able to forget. I can picture the way you looked back then when I first saw you standing right there. I still know the expression on your face when you chose to sit with me in the grass. He chuckled self-derisively, interrupting his own monologue. You scared me at first. I figured I'd be alone out here until I had to face my dad again. And suddenly another kid appeared out of nowhere. It was startling, but I got over it that fast. He was a strange person, in a strange place, but in that moment, you were exactly what I needed. Someone I could talk to freely about what was happening and how it made me feel. And you listened to me. You stayed with me. He sighed and bit his lips as he gave a small smile. I was a little bit spoiled growing up. Let him continue. He looked off again, seeking clarity of his thoughts in the expanse of the night sky. What I'm trying to say is, when I was younger, I viewed myself basically as the center of the universe. I didn't even imagine it wasn't like that. Things didn't simply happen. That would be weird according to my little kid brain. It made far more sense that everything in my life had a specific connection to me, right? He sought affirmation from you, the wavy eyebrows raised as he tried to explain his childlike logic. At the same time, it felt almost unreal. Like you weren't just anyone. Some other kid who happened to live in the neighborhood with your whole life that wasn't connected to Cove Holden. No, to me, you were there so that you can find me when I was lost. Though, it turns out you were there for that. You were trying to find me because something had sent you specifically to do that. I just didn't expect it to be my dad. I guess he knew more about it. I guess he knew more about what I needed than I thought. He chuckled, shaking his head as he shook off the thought. Kind of expected it all to vanish like a dream, and that night was over. I would wake up and everything would be the same again. I'm back in my room at my house, my real house with both my parents. The future was something I couldn't picture anymore. I didn't know what school would be like when I went back, or the table I'd eat my breakfast in the next morning, or anything. And if I couldn't imagine it, how could I think it was something actually happening? I couldn't grasp my new reality. It was too big for me to hold all at once. So I never thought I'd see you again. Then Cove beamed at you, his eyes shining bright. And I never, ever would have been able to guess that 10 years later, when I was a grown-up, the two of us would still be together. So glad I met you. I feel the same about you. The smile faded from his face and eyebrows drew together. That was the worst day of my life at the time. The day my family broke apart. It was too heavy for me to even think about. I felt that way for I don't know how long. He held a hand over his heart, connecting with the with the pain he felt as a child. Looked at you earnestly.
It's okay.
But that was never really true. Things had only gotten better with me and with Dad and Mom. That it was the change we all needed. His eyes grew misty. And when I remember that time right now, there's no point. It's not a point in my life was over. It's only the moment where I met the woman I love. When I was crying to a stranger over what I thought I'd lost, I didn't have any idea that she would be the one thing in the world that I actually want to be able to live without. I want to lose you. You won't. Give him a hug. You reached out to wrap your arms around Cove. He opened his arms and clasped you into his chest. His grip was tight and reassuring. Cove sighed contently. His voice was as delicate as the petals of the poppies which crowned the hill. Hey, Viola. So grateful you always took care of me. You didn't even know what to say back. His heartfelt appreciation left you speechless. He tilted his head up. Thoughts lost in the space clouds above. I wonder how late it is. I guess it doesn't really matter. My dad is fine with me being out whenever. He quietly nodded. Mr. Holton was content in giving Cove all the freedom he could. Are you going to lay in the grass now? Wow, how'd you know? Just thought you might want to. You know, like a fool. With a chuckle, Cove plopped down on the ground and laid on his back. His usual way of spending time there. Stayed standing. You stood by, close enough to continue speaking, but you didn't want to get on the ground. Cove pouted up at you from his place in the grass and reached his arms out toward you. Spoiled. Go with him on the grass, whatever! You couldn't resist the invitation. Then lowered yourself in his arms. Happily wrapped them around you and pulled you against his side. And both of you fully settled to relax on the hill. It felt like just the beginning of one of your nightly outings when you realized the sun was peeking over the horizon. You spoke up in a disbelieving tone. It really was late. Your neighbor wasn't a stranger to being awake at dawn. However, not like this. He was normally an early sleeper and early riser, and the fact that sunrise particularly awed him. The two of you watched on silently as the sun began to light up the world. Cove then propped himself up on the backs of his arms and looked at you, with a soft expression on his face. Want to go back home? I'd carry you if you're too tired. Shook your head. Couldn't resist a yawn when you were serious. It wasn't time to go already. Cove chuckled affectionately and gripped you a little more.
I get it.
Okay, but it's been a long day. I've done a lot of things. Like, really a lot. Let's end sometime. I really have to end? Yeah. I don't think there's anything either of us can do about that one. But we can say if you want. Cove smiled brightly. As warm as the new rays of the sun that were tickling your skin. That moment you couldn't have appreciated him being there more. You bent yourself against Cove for extra support. He tilted his head against yours. My favorite neighbor. Mine too. Two of you remained together on the familiar Poppy Hill, where you first met until the world began to fade and blur. You were falling asleep. Your gentle words drifted into your consciousness.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Eyelids dipped, but you felt good. You were safe and relaxed. Everything that had come before this had reassured you of that. You're confident that when you opened them again, things would be okay. Open your eyes. Inside of the walls of your room, you were surrounded by open sky. There's not soft pillows or sheets underneath you, but the bed of earth and grass that you had taken last night. A day welcomed you with a shining sun, refreshing breeze, and a chirping song of birds. You covered your face with your hands and then sat up, and the imprint of blades of grass leaving lines on your cheeks. Viola. Hearing your name, you lowered your heads to look around. There he was, your most influential neighbor, Cove. He made himself very comfortable, laying on his stomach, with jewelry and shoes taken off, and a flower in his hand. Good morning. Morning. Cove laughed, tickled by the overall situation and simply being able to spend time like this. Hope I see you tomorrow. Glad you're right. Cove's face lit up into a broad grin. Me too, but there wasn't really any doubt. Cove turned his head up to the sky, his expression content. Looks like it's gonna be a nice day. We'll have to come up with something to do to make the most of it. He trailed off, blinking slowly in the sunlight. Someday, when we're even older than we are now, I wonder if we'll end up remembering this moment for. What will we feel when we look back on it? Will it be the same as what we're feeling right now?
Nice.
I can't see what the future is gonna look like again, but I think that's alright. No, but I'm looking forward to finding out. Cove turned back to you, nodding in full agreement. You had the hills sprawling out before you, and down below, where the wild hill and nature gave way to civilization. Your house and Cove's lay down at the bottom, neatly filed among the other houses in the neighborhood. Viola, I bet I could beat you to getting back to the road. You laughed, amused by the wager that reminded you of so many moments of your youth. As much as I like it here, it's okay if we leave now. We can always come back to see the poppies and the fireflies again, right? You met your eyes, waiting for what you were going to say in response. Yeah, I bet you that you're not getting out of it. Huffling slowly, his eyes still locked on you. But you didn't see his... You didn't need to see his face to know that he adored you. If there was any room of doubt, the tender way he spoke would have filled it up. You're really irreplaceable, huh? Why'd he just kick up his leg like that? Put the foot down! Cove beamed at you. His expression was unlike the one he'd worn when you first found him here. Swaddled in sadness and uncertainty. But you couldn't help but glimpse that boy once more underneath his bright expression and matured features. Come on. He offered you a hand. You accepted it, your palm fitting around his. Cove lifted himself up, pulling you along too. Parents probably aren't gonna come running for us this time. We've gotta make our own call. And I'd say that we can't hide away forever. Poppy Hill is just one part of things. You're more out there for us than this time in this place alone. Let's enjoy it. You can't say whether you're the one that broke into the run, if Cove was the one to start it, or if your feet had simultaneously made the choice for both of you. The end result was the same, with the two of you dashing down the hill like children, but with the nostalgic rivalry that could only come as an adult. As the wind whipped past you, you knew that family and friends were waiting at the end of your sprint. There were more memories to make, after all. Life takes another step forward. Hey! Lots of event work.
I
The day is new, the sun is bright. Like a gentle breeze, I feel at peace, I feel at ease. And I hear the birds all sing their songs. I wanna sing along, and like the ocean flows, I'll see where I can go. Winter, spring, summer, fall, I've seen them change, I felt them all. No matter how the seasons change, I
Step
love
4.
the sun, the snow, the rain. Our life will change. Our lives will change. And the sun shines brightly in the sky, and technically
Valkyrie, fun.
glowing bright.
What on her?
And I feel the heat, I feel the sand beneath my feet. And when leaves start
Honey bunnies!
falling on the trees,
That's awesome.
and ice begins to freeze, I'll keep the fire
A
started.
fruitcake,
Watch
even
the
better.
falling snow.
5 checks.
Winter, spring, summer, fall, I've seen them change, I felt them all. No matter how the seasons change, I love the sun, the snow, the
Bread.
rain. Our life will change. Our lives will change. Our life will change.
This one's good.
Our lives will change.
Blue Flame Entertainment. I think I've heard of them. It sounds familiar.
No matter the weather, we'll always shine through. The seasons keep changing, and I wanna change with you. Our life will change. Our lives will change. Our life will change.
This song's being added to the playlist for Viola.
Our lives will change.
In between. I guess we're still going. Gotta be love now. Okay, I'm gonna end the episode here. I don't really know how much longer it is, but we'll see. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you later.